Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I am your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm privileged to welcome a very, very accomplished entrepreneur from Pune, India, Kirty Datar. Kirty, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Ashutosh. It's my pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Kirty is the co-founder of Canebot, and we're going to speak about Canebot in a few minutes. But Kirty, before I come to Canebot, tell me about your journey and what were you doing before you became an entrepreneur?
All right. So I have a little, twisted story, I would say. I was born in a Marwadi family, who are supposedly entrepreneurs and businessmen for centuries. But unlike typical Marwadis, my father was into a government job. He actually was working as a judge. And I was brought up in a completely Cosmo environment. And due to that, I somewhere started to believe that, no, I don't want to get into business because business is, there's lots of ups and downs. I saw my father having a very steady job. So I decided I'm never going to do business. And I also decided that I'm never going to marry a person who is into business.
Okay.
So now I call myself an accidental entrepreneur, to be honest. So I pursued a career in IT and I worked prior to getting onto my entrepreneurial journey. I worked in IT for almost 13 years.
Wow.
And in fact, that's where I met my husband. We got connected, we got married. And eventually now we are both co-founders in the company.
Fantastic. So now let's come to Canebot, Kirty. Tell me about this venture and your motivation to start it.
Okay. So Canebot, as the name suggests, it has to do with sugar cane. So I'll talk more about it, but I'll just talk about how it all got started. So basically, we have been traveling a lot, my husband and I. So during some of our travels into Western countries and all, what we observed was that typically in the Western countries, they take up something very basic or very unique, very common, not unique, and they can create a business model around it, which is unique.
Correct.
That becomes standardized, that gets branded, and that becomes a scalable business. We always had this concept in mind. And one particular day, we were one sunny afternoon, I'll say, we were having a glass of sugarcane juice at a roadside shop. And opposite to that, there was a cafe coffee day. A group of youngsters came out and they were kind of trying to click a picture with that CCD logo in background. So we were generally talking that how these young kids, take pride in having coffee, that they want to click a picture and probably flaunt on their social media. And then suddenly we said, this poor sugarcane juice, nobody really cares about it. So, and then suddenly the thought crossed that, if someone could take a cup of coffee and create a CCD or Starbucks out of it, why not sugarcane juice?
Absolutely.
And yeah, that's when we looked at each other and we're like, okay, is this our eureka moment? And indeed, that's how the journey started. Of course, there's a lot that happened after that. And it took another 1.5 years to do the research in terms of market feasibility, financial feasibility, understanding the technicalities of sugarcane as a product, its nutritional value. But rest is a history. That's the simple thought that generated this particular idea.
Oh, amazing.
Right.
And sugarcane juice has been in the market forever.
Yes.
Right. What are you doing differently at Canebot? That is, or what was that one thing that, as you said, when you saw, when you go to the Western world, they find something unique.
Right. So, see, as you rightly said, sugarcane juice has been there forever, for centuries, we can say.
Correct.
But it has been on the roadside for centuries.
Correct.
Nobody has ever tried to uplift the position and try to bring it to the current lifestyle that we are into. So our entire endeavor was how we can uplift the position of this drink and make it a aspirational beverage for the current generation.
Correct.
It doesn't have any aspiration value. Nobody flaunts or nobody says, I had Girnika juice today. It didn't have that. So that was the whole idea, that how we can bring that aspirational value, because the product has a lot of merits. It's healthy, it's tasty. Almost everybody loves the taste of it. So we thought that if we want to do that, there's lots of things that needs to be done, right from standardization to entire process innovation to entire positioning and offering the way we would do it. And that's what we actually did. So in the beginning, what we did was we created our outlets, pretty much like a coffee shop where they prepared the coffee and they serve it. That's how we did. But we created a chain of corporate outlets in Pune.
Okay.
So all these companies like Infosys, Wipro, Cognizant, TCS, Accenture, so on, in their food courts, we set up our outlet and a person would stand there. He prepares the fresh ganne ka juice, but of course in a very hygienic manner.
Yeah.
Because one word, I mean, if you have to say what we changed particularly, the hygiene.
Well said.
Right? Because hygiene has been the biggest pain point when it comes to sugarcane juice. And that is the biggest USP, I would say, we have tried to imbibe into our brand since the time we formed it.
Amazing. Amazing. And when I was reading about you, you also are using technology to be able to create differentiation for Canebot. Tell me about what you're doing here.
Right. So two things. One, I come from technology background. As I said, my co-founder Milind and I, we both have worked in IT for 13, 14 years before getting into it. So of course we couldn't unlearn certain things that we knew, and that is for a good reason, of course. So what happened was when we had the corporate outlets that went on pretty well, and we actually went ahead and sold over 28 lakh glasses of sugarcane juice through our corporate cafeterias. But the way that whole business model was designed, it was suitable for corporate cafeterias, but it couldn't be replicated in retail because retail demanded a lot of rentals. And so when the pandemic came, our corporate outlet got completely closed.
Right.
Our revenues came down to zero. And in fact, the corporate food courts have still not opened, thanks to work from home culture that has set in. So that's when we were kind of stuck, and we didn't know how to go further because corporates are closed. The same model cannot be replicated in retail. And that's where we thought, let's leverage technology. And after a lot of brainstorming, going back to our drawing boards, we came up with the solution where we thought we could build a vending machine kind of a thing.
Okay.
But when I say vending machine, typical vending machines that we have around us are the ones which will just dispense a pre-packaged food.
Correct.
But our idea was to make it a robotic vending machine where we actually store the fresh sugarcane sticks in that.
Wow.
And you as a customer, when you go and place the order, we have a screen where you can select a menu, make the payment. That is the time when the actual sugarcane stick gets crushed on demand and fresh juice is dispensed in a glass.
Incredible.
So that involves IoT, that involves a lot of robotics in that. But the biggest advantage or the reason for this is the machine occupies only 20 square feet of ground space. So, that makes it absolutely feasible to be installed even at premium locations where rentals are high, like airports or malls or any kind of retail location. So that's how we leverage technology to change the way this juice has been offered.
How amazing. How amazing. And before asking you any other questions, let me ask you some of the health benefits of sugarcane juice. I mean, everyone's saying sugar is not good now, but yet sugarcane juice is a natural juice.
Yeah.
So for my viewers and listeners, tell me, what are the health benefits of sugarcane juice?
Right. So as you rightly said, there's a lot of misconception about sugarcane juice because of the word sugar. But what people don't realize is that sugarcane juice is, as you said, it has a natural sugar. When they prepare the actual processed sugar out of it, there's a lot of processing happens. In that process, the entire nutrition is lost, the chemicals are added, and that's where that white sugar is bad for health. But when you go back to sugar juice in its natural form, right from the Ayurveda to any other scriptures that we have, it has been documented and proven that sugarcane juice has a variety of medicinal properties. It's not just simply good for health, but it also has medicinal properties. And the biggest, I'll say, the thing that is not known by people is, though it is sweet, but it has a low glycemic index, GI, what we call that. So that makes it suitable even for diabetics.
Okay.
So even diabetics can consume. We have had a lot of consumers who were our regular customers and they were diabetics, and even diabetics actually can consume in moderate quantity because it has a low glycemic index, and due to which it doesn't spike your sugar rapidly the way any artificially sweetened beverage would do.
And I'm assuming this is for freshly crushed sugar bot and not for canned sugarcane.
No, I'm talking about the freshly crushed sugarcane juice. Of course, when you can it, again, there's a whole lot of, depending upon what kind of process has gone into it. But the freshly crushed juice is certainly very healthy, and it has a lot of medicinal values actually.
Fascinating, fascinating. My next question to you is that, Kirti, as tech people, you got into a branded product and you've created your own brand. What goes into creating and building a successful beverage brand?
All right. So the first and the foremost thing I'll say is the standardization part of it. So when we talk about brand, any kind of brand, let's say again, you take McDonald's, you take CCD, whatever, no matter where you go, when you go, you'll find same taste, same quality, same consistency. So of course we are dealing with a product which is natural product. It's not a factory made product. So I'll not say that it's 100% consistency or standardization, but still we have tried to achieve the maximum standardization, because one thing that we have done is we have controlled sourcing, wherein we have identified a location or a region from where we would source our raw material, and we have been doing from the same region for the past 9 years. We have been into this business. So that ensures that, because the moment the quality of soil changes, the amount of rainfall changes, there's a difference of taste that comes in.
Right.
So to create a brand, standardization is the first and the foremost key. And that's where the quality parameters play a major role. So that's the first, the source aspect of it. And of course, there's a front end. So there's the back end part of it, and there's a front end to it about, how do we. So it actually comes from your own self-belief and self-worth. Someone could think of sugarcane and feel very low about it. Maybe someone may not even want to talk about, oh, I'm selling sugarcane juice. They may want to do it very secretly just to earn money, but it's not a very prestigious profession probably.
Okay.
But at the same time, if I as a founder have a self-worth and I feel that I am not just simply selling sugarcane juice, but I'm impacting the health of consumers.
Correct.
I'm here to promote the local produce as compared to other beverages. It is a lot better for nation's economy and consumers' health. So that kind of changes the way I look at it, and that changes the way I represent that to the world. So to create a brand, it's very important that we as founders have to first believe and feel pride about what we are doing. And that's the kind of thing that will then get reciprocated among the consumers outside.
Amazing. The other thing is the Indian palate. Everyone likes to customize a freshly squeezed sugarcane juice. Someone wants lime in it, someone wants a masala in it, salt in it, etc., etc. How are you tackling these unique taste requirements we have in India?
Right. So absolutely, what you said is right. And see, that's where it's very important that when we are revolutionizing something, we cannot just take the old stuff and give it in a new packaging.
Correct.
It has to also come with a lot of new offerings around it. So let me tell you that the vending machine that we have built, we have variety of flavors that someone can select from, So basics ones, right, as you said, lemon and ginger. But not just that, we have some very fancy flavors also. Let me say, for example, we have activated charcoal lemonade. That is basically sugarcane juice with activated charcoal and lime juice. Or we also have another flavor which is matcha chia, which is like green tea and chia seeds added to it. So yes, we are able to cater to different palate, especially of the new consumers who want to experiment with the food they consume.
Right. Absolutely fascinating. You've also been disrupting this category quite a lot.
Right.
Tell me a little bit about how you are doing this, and how have competitors reacted to this?
Right. So the point is that honestly, there was no such category that existed called as sugarcane juice, because as I said, unfortunately, we have so many industries around that. But for some reason, nobody ever thought of picking up and trying to organize sugarcane juice. So yes, we are trying to create a category, and we are, but in the past, if we see, we have seen various brands creating categories. Let's say, for example, when Paperboat came in, they created a completely new category of ethnic beverages. Until then, nobody thought that people want to buy, aam panna or those kind of things. So I'll say last a decade or so, we are seeing that a lot of new categories are emerging. And sugarcane certainly has the potential to become a category in itself. And the advantage that we have here is that I think slowly and gradually consumers are wanting to switch towards natural and healthy beverages, because it's time that people have come to realize that all these carbonated and sugar laden drinks are doing no good to them and they're doing more harm to them. So I think that is something which is really helping us, because we are already riding the wave which is growing, kind of thing, so that's the advantage I see we have here.
Oh, amazing. And you just mentioned multiple flavors. Based on all your interactions with your consumers, are Indians, or more specifically younger Indians, experimenting more with their tastes?
Yes, they are experimenting, one. And two, what we have observed is people want choices. They may still go and choose lemon, but they feel a sense of satisfaction when they have chosen lemon out of 5 or 6 or 10 options available. If I keep only lemon, they're like, okay, they have only lemon. So it has to do more with mindset, because everybody wants to have a sense of control over what they are doing. And that sense of control comes from decision making, from making a choice. So that's where it is very important for us as a brand to provide options to consumers. And of course, there are a set of people who want to try new things, and they also feel being included in this.
Amazing. Your observation is so correct. Because I was talking to somebody else and they said in food, particularly North Indian food,
right,
no matter how much you offer, the biggest sellers are still tandoori chicken, kali dal, and tandoori roti.
Right, absolutely.
Or a paneer or something like that.
Right.
So well said. Well said. My next question to you is, given that you've now started sugarcane, what are your plans for the future?
Okay. So basically, since now we have built a tech solution, so this particular vending machine that I talked about, so for India, I'll say we are still a bit too early, honestly, because India has still not advanced much in terms of food robotics in the retail space. We do have robotic automations at the back end. The factory automations are there. We have factories of chitles making bhakarwadis or chocolates and all. But on the retail front, most of the things are not automated. So since we have built this particular machine, the idea is that the whole crux is going to remain same. We intend to extend it to various other beverages which people want to consume, but they are not readily available. So that's where we see that this can be expanded or scaled to variety of beverages, because as I said, one of the indicators, especially post-COVID, is people have become more health conscious. So they've given a choice, they want to opt for healthier options, and we are just trying to bridge that gap and see how we can make it available for them.
And do you see this bot or the machine that you have built reducing in size and coming into every condominium complex in the country?
Yes, that's the whole idea, that any kind of institutional setup, be it housing societies, be it corporate offices, metro stations, airports, hospitals, so everywhere, because it's like a water machine, water cooler machine kind of a thing. So it's very easy, and availability increases the demand. That's a very common thing. Absolutely. Right? I mean, when we were growing up, ice creams were available most of the times only in summers. So of course we consumed them only summers. Now they are available year long, and we consume them year long. So it's if something is available, the demand automatically is there. So there is a gap, and we're just trying to fill in that particular gap.
Well said. And then I guess once you've got a presence in hundreds of locations, your biggest challenge will be your supply chain.
Yes.
Isn't it?
Yes, but the way we are looking at it is that we don't, since it's a natural product, we don't want to keep it a very centralized supply chain, because the idea is, to employ the local farmers and also to reduce the carbon footprint, and also give the local food to the consumers. So the way we are looking at it is we will decentralize it based on the geographies. And fortunately for us, sugarcane is available all over India.
Correct.
Whether you go down south to Bangalore, you have hubs like Mandya and all, where they have unlimited amount of sugarcane juice. If you go to north towards UP and all, we have abundance of sugarcane. So that way, we are trying to see to it that we don't have a centralized sourcing, because that's not a sustainable way to build a business, we believe. Sustainable in terms of money, in terms of environment, everything. So the idea is to source the local produce, have the standardizations in place, and serve the local beverages to consumers in that particular region.
Fascinating. Kirti, I have time for 2 more questions for you. My next question is now to Kirti as a startup entrepreneur. For someone who spent 13, 14 years in IT and now is a startup entrepreneur, What have been some of your learnings and challenges?
So of course it has been a very, I'll say, roller coaster ride. It was not easy to, because see what happens is entrepreneurship looks very glamorous from outside.
Correct.
Because that's how it is being portrayed all over social media and stuff like that. You'll have freedom, you are your own boss, you don't have to report to someone, you can be flexible. Yes, all those things are true. I'm not saying no. But then it comes with its own set of challenges, its own set of issues, I'll say.
Correct.
So it has been a roller coaster ride. I wouldn't say it has been very easy. And one thing I've learned is in entrepreneurship, there's no substitute to hard work.
Correct.
At least in jobs, what happens is you can get away without doing real work. There are times when you can show that you're working and people and the organization works because there are so many people working together. But when you're a founder, when you're an entrepreneur, there's no substitute to hard work.
Correct. Well said.
And yeah, another important thing that I've learned is the patience. There's so much patience that's required, because there are times when you just have to wait for the right time, wait for that first funding, wait for the first right product. A lot of patience is required. So as I say that Rome cannot be built in a day, even in this fast-paced 21st century. So yes, patience is much acquired skill when you work on entrepreneurship, and I think that is important thing for us. And maybe one more last I would want to add as an entrepreneur, what I've learned is that we either win or we learn. There's nothing called as losing per se. Because as an entrepreneur, there are so many things that we get into, and not every time we succeed. There are times when we fail, we don't get what we're looking for, but we still get so much of insight, so many insights, so many learnings. So for us, it's like, we either win or we learn. Nothing goes for a waste. Every attempt that we make is getting us something forward.
How amazing. And, I must share with you at the end my own observation, because I became an entrepreneur at 46 and everyone said, you'll be your own boss. And I remember commenting to someone 1 year later, I said, I have all the time in the world to choose which 18 hours of the day I need to work.
Exactly. But at the end of the day, it's 18 hours. That's the flexibility.
Absolutely.
Which 18 hours, true.
But Kirti, on that note, thank you for telling me about your incredible journey as of Canebot. Thank you for talking to me about the machine that you have developed and talking about food robotics and branding. And one of these days, I'm hoping that we'll see your machines in Gurgaon, which is where I live, and sample your fresh sugarcane juice. And finally, thank you for speaking to me, and good luck to you.
Thank you so much, Ashutosh. It has been such a pleasure talking to you, and I wish you all the best with this journey of yours.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.